Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your primetime news update. I'm Shane Silva.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Before we go into your stories in detail, let's take a look at the headlines.
One dead in knife attack at Hulsdorf Court Complex. 2 injured. MP Buddhika Patrana comments on the ice bucket challenge.
ඒ ආණ්ඩුවේම වුවමනා එපාකම්ද මේ අයිස් බකට් අභියෝගය හරහා ඉෂ්ට වෙන්නේ කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙනවා.
French Prime Minister and Cabinet resign.
Now, stories in detail. An individual was stabbed to death while 2 others suffered injuries opposite the Hulsdorf Court Complex this afternoon. Katrina Chang joins us with the details of the story from the Hulsdorf arena.
We're here in close proximity to the Hulsdorf Court Complex. Now on one side is the High Court, while on the other side is the Superior Court Complex. The Magistrate Court, however, is just few meters away from here. Now this area, which houses 3 courts, is considered a high security zone.
A suspect who appeared before the Magistrate Court number 3 was stabbed along with his sister and father. The victims had stepped out of the court complex at around 11:30 am following the conclusion of the hearing. It was then that the assailants attacked the group. According to the police, one of the victims was connected to a case pertaining to the abduction and rape of a 17-year-old girl from Kotahena. Bail was granted to the victim in court today. The police noted that as the victim was exiting the court complex with his father and sister, the father of the girl who was abducted and raped had attacked the trio. The injured were admitted to the National Hospital. The suspect who carried out the stabbing was arrested. According to the police, the father of the individual involved in the case died after being admitted to the National Hospital. The victims are residents of Moratua.
Now the 2 individuals who sustained injuries in the stabbing is currently receiving in-house treatment at the National Hospital.
The male victim who suffered injuries in the attack has been identified as a 25-year-old. According to the director of the National Hospital, Dr. Anil Singer, he is not in a critical condition. The director went on to note that both the victims who suffered injuries in the incident are receiving treatment at the ICU of the hospital. Jailers assaulted, suspect in their custody abducted at Hulsdorf. 2 persons assaulted during a protest opposite the Hulsdorf Court Complex. Husband armed with a mammoth attacks his wife at the Deyatakandia court premises. Convict who received the death sentence slits his own throat in the holding cells at the Monaragala High Court.
Drug racketeer Kudu Chamara, also known as Tusisa Chamara, was taken into custody at the Bandaranaike International Airport. The police stated that the suspect was attempting to flee the country under a false name. Tusita Chamara, alias Kudu Chamara, was arrested for possessing 500 grams of heroin last June by the police anti-narcotics unit. The suspect, who was kept under remand custody at the Ragama hospital due to a health condition, escaped from hospital. The suspect led police custody on the 26th of June.
Moving on to more local news, 2 persons belonging to the same family died while 7 others sustained injuries in a motor accident which occurred in the Valisara area this morning. According to the police, the accident occurred at around 4 am when a small container truck rear end collided with a lorry. The police noted that the passengers of the lorry, who had been travelling to a Kovel event from Grand Pass, had been injured.
My sister had been shouting, saying that there is a vehicle coming from the back. When she ended the sentence, the damage was already done. The hood of the vehicle had gone flying. There were about 7 children under the age of 5. None of them were injured.
A 36-year-old woman and a 34-year-old man died in the accident while the injured were admitted to the Ragama hospital. Our correspondent noted that the 4 of the injured are receiving treatment at the ICU of the hospital. The driver of the container truck has been arrested in connection to the incident.
විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි අහනවා අද වෙනකොට මේ නායකත්ව මණ්ඩලය තුලින් මේ පක්ෂයට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මේ පක්ෂයේ පාක්ෂිකයන්ට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මේ පක්ෂයේ ජයග්‍රාහී සමගියක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙලා තියෙනවද?
Welcome back to the news.
Addressing a media briefing today, parliamentarian Buddhika Pathirana commented on the ALS ice bucket challenge that has been spreading through social media like wildfire.
Something known as the ice bucket challenge has been spreading through the internet and social media sites like Facebook and YouTube. It also receives the patronage of the government. This can be seen as a conspiracy. How fair is it to waste water in this manner when people are facing hardships without water due to the lack of rain in some parts of the island? We have no idea or guarantee that the money which is being donated to some unknown fund in some unknown country would benefit ALS patients in Sri Lanka. Our foreign reserves were drained in the past using pyramid schemes. The government spent millions on newspaper ads and awareness programs to combat this. However, the ice bucket challenge is also similar to a pyramid scheme, and there is no action being taken to stop money flowing out of the country through this. We have a question as to whether some force within the government is involved in this. The government donated 50 million rupees to build and carpet a road in the Maldives. We donated millions of rupees for vocational training in Uganda. We have a doubt as to whether the ice bucket challenge is fulfilling the needs of the government. Use your brain when doing something, not your heart. I call on all the artists, celebrities and youth of the country, let us put a stop to this ice bucket challenge.
After this news item was aired on the 7 o'clock news bulletin on our sister channel Sirsa TV, Buddhika Pathirana contacted Newsfirst and expressed the following views.
While I was watching the views expressed by me during your news broadcast, I remembered another matter that was brought up during the media briefing. I am grateful that you have given me the opportunity to express my views on this at this moment. The person who was the pioneer of the ice bucket challenge is no longer among the living. He has passed away. But in Sri Lanka, Hirunika Premachandra, Senal Valgama, I do not know whether he will participate or not, Malcha Kumaratunga, artists and people who call themselves popular stars are dragging this campaign on. The person who pioneered this campaign, who established this fund, is no longer living. But our people are continuing with this campaign like zombies. Once again, I say that we must put a stop to this dangerous activity that is taking the nation's wealth abroad.
JVP Central Committee member KD Lalkantha expressed these views about his wife during an event held in Maharagama yesterday.
My wife still wakes up at 4 in the morning and goes to work. My daughter is studying for her advanced levels and the cost for tuition is nearly 30,000 rupees a month. She's a teacher and her salary is not enough. I don't get any money, so she bears this burden. She tells me recently, I have been doing this full time for 30 years. It's time that you also did something. This shows the society that we live in. Without finding a solution for these issues, you can never fully provide justice to anyone here.
KD Lalkantha made these comments at an event held to launch the Amma novel authored by Upulshantha Sannasgala.
Starting from tonight, Newsfirst inquires into the views of the public on the UNP Leadership Council, commencing with the views of former member of the Biyagama Pradesha Sabha, Amila Ruwan. Amila Ruwan was one of the pioneers of the UNP's victory in the Biyagama Pradesha Sabha in 2006.
Amila Ruwan, who was elected to the Biyagama Pradesha Sabha in 2006, was re-elected with a majority of votes in 2010. As a result of his battle to reform the UNP, Amila Ruwan was removed from the post he was elected to in September 2013 on the instructions of the UNP Leadership Council. The party replaced him with the next candidate on the list, who was defeated in the election. When he was elected to Parliament for the first time in 1977, the present leader of the UNP, Ranil Wickremesinghe too, represented the Biyagama electorate. However, as a result of steps taken to remove active politicians like Amila Ruwan who have a voter base, the UNP has lost power in the Biyagama Pradesha Sabha. Throughout the country, party supporters believe that the UNP is a powerful political party that can achieve electoral victories as a single entity. However, party supporters point out that as a result of outsiders who have no voter base being granted leadership positions in the party, the UNP is falling into decline. The UNP was defeated at both provincial council elections held following the appointment of the Leadership Council headed by these individuals. Party supporters question if the upcoming UNP Provincial Council poll or a possible future presidential or parliamentary election can be won under the guidance of a leadership council which comprises of such outsiders. Party supporters also question why the party leader is thinking only of his own power and why he has given the task of steering the party to the leadership council, allowing outsiders to make decisions on party matters. In spite of losing my positions and even my position as member of the Pradeshya Sabha, I have not abandoned this party. We must remain in the party and work to protect it. We have continuously expressed our views from the stance that we wish to take the party onto the victorious path. We saw recently that at a time when the party was on the verge of collapse and was on all fours, when there was an environment to make the party victorious, they hastily put together a leadership council from somewhere. What we ask at this moment is, what has this leadership council done for the party? What has the leadership council done for the party supporters? Have they been able to forge victorious unity in the party? Has this leadership council been able to take the party onto the victorious path? When persons who do not know the pulse of the party supporters take up these positions, the party can never be rebuilt. Karujaya Surya is a person who kicked aside the pulse of the people, crossed over with 17 others and then returned alone. He cannot speak of the pulse of the party supporter again. That is why the leadership council has stagnated today. It is the same with Mangala Samaravira. We say now as we did then that it was Mangala Samaravira who created an opinion on the ground that Ranil Wickramasinghe cannot win. Just because they have snuck into the leadership council, they cannot take the party on the victorious path. Can people like Lakshman Kiriyalla, who held positions and ministerial portfolios in Chandrika's government, rebuild this party? The leaders of our party have failed to understand this. That is why there is no future with this leadership council. What is Daya Gamage doing here? When there are already talented organizers in the party, organizers who can rally the villagers, can people like Daya Gamage rebuild this party? This is why the UNP is being dragged further into the crevice. We say now as we said then that there is no leadership council enshrined in the party constitution.
මේ පක්ෂයේ ව්‍යවස්ථාව තුළ නායකත්ව මණ්ඩල තිබුණේ නැහැ.
Rajita Wijetunga at the Newsfirst Election Bureau filed this report.
Postal voting ballot papers for the Badulla district were handed over to the Department of Postal Services today at the Nurses Training College Auditorium in Badulla. Postal voting ballot papers for the Munaragala district were entrusted to the Department of Postal Services at the Munaragala district secretariat. The election secretariat notes that 30,656 public officials are eligible to cast postal votes for the UNP Provincial Council election. The Postmaster General notes that a special program has been initiated to distribute the postal voting ballot papers.
After receiving the postal voting ballots, we will begin the distribution process. Postal voting will take place on the 4th and 5th of September. We believe that we will be able to conclude distributing the ballot papers before this date.
Meanwhile, a JVP campaign officer in Dambagala, Monaragala was attacked last night.
We call on the Elections Commissioner to exercise his powers to stop election violence in the Monaragala district and to put a stop to illegal propaganda activities. We call on him to ensure that this is a free and fair election. If you don't intervene, then you will be shirking your responsibilities.
Western Provincial Council Minister Udaya Gamanpila says that new legislation should be introduced which would require candidates to reveal their campaign expenses following the conclusion of the election. The councillor made this statement during a media briefing held to reveal his campaign expenses during the Western Provincial Council polls.
Udaya Gamanpila revealed today that he had received 4,309,800 rupees as campaign donations. The opposition is criticizing the government on the election stage. They are speaking of the government's shortcomings. Then, when you listen to the opposition and give them the power to topple the government, what will they do afterwards? They will pick up from where the current government stopped. We need alternatives, not criticism. If the work we are doing is wrong, then show us and how it should be done. Instead of toppling the government, topple the system. We tried our best to do that in the past. I did not use any posters or massive cutouts in my campaign. I did not distribute liquor, nor did I organize dansalas. I did not distribute gifts, and there was only a very limited media presence. Even with that, I spent 9.8 million rupees. This report can be used to understand the amount being spent on election campaigns. There are caps on the amount of campaign financing that can be used in other countries. It is important to bring in such legislation because there will be stark differences in the campaigns run by candidates who have black money or plenty to spend and those who don't have such resources. We call on those in the government to bring in legislation which limits the campaign finances that can be utilized and which makes it mandatory for the candidates to disclose their campaign finances. We expect that other candidates would also do this voluntarily. Instead of merely speaking about good governance, you could act on it and create a positive change. We make this request from all candidates.
Two elephants that ventured into the Mayangane town have disappeared. According to our correspondent in the area, the two elephants were not discovered this afternoon.
The two elephants had arrived near the banks of the Mahavali rivers, which flow through an area which is in close proximity to the historic Mahayangane Rajamahavihara. Since it is unsafe to drive away elephants during the daytime, wildlife officers commenced their operation last evening. Their aim was to drive the two elephants into the Waskamo National Park. The elephants that were close to the river fled towards the city once the officers commenced their operation. Our correspondent stated that the two elephants went missing afterwards.
When I was returning from the town at around 7 p.m, I saw an elephant coming when I was in the three-wheeler.
The elephants that roamed the city caused damages to several properties, including the fence of the Mahayangane police. Wildlife officials should pay more attention. The elephants were there since last afternoon. They should have done something sooner. They didn't. Search operations continue till this evening to find the missing elephants.
Coming up on the news tonight, IS militants have seized a key air base in Syria after a week of fighting that has left at least 500 people dead. Join me, Nadim Majid, on the international desk for a comprehensive report on this story and much more.
Up next is Action TV. A 400-hectare area of Rajagala in Lahugala, Ampara has been declared a prohibited zone as per the archaeological ordinance. As per the legal interpretation, any individual other than those with authorization from the Department of Archaeology can only visit this location between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. The law can be enforced against such individuals even if they possess a box of matches when entering the prohibited zone. On the 21st of July, a lit match caused a fire in the archaeological zone in Rajagala. Although what should have happened in that instance was the heads of archaeology at the Sri Jayawardhanapura University should have accepted responsibility and removed themselves from the reserve. Instead, 11 villagers from Lahugala employed on a casual basis as labourers of the project were sent packing. On Saturday, Action TV came across a person in Rajagala Reserve who was a self-proclaimed Pandit.
ඒක කිසිම පුරාවිද්‍යා උපකරණ මොනවද කිසිම දෙයක් නැහැ පුතා. ඒක කොහොමද එහෙම කියන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. එයි මේක තියනවාද මේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා වැව නෙමෙයි. හරි. වැව දැන් මේ තියෙන ඉස්සෙල්ලා තිබි පරිසරයේ නෙවෙයි නේද තියෙන්නේ. ඊට සම්පූර්ණ විද්‍යාව වෙනස් දෙයක්. ඔව්. ඉතින් අපිට කොහොමද කියන්නේ මේක පුරාවිද්‍යාත්මක දේවල් නැහැ කියලා. මේක නැහැ කිසිම දෙයක්. ඒක අපි සක්සුදක්ෂේ දන්නේ නැද්ද තමයි අපි කියන්නේ. කැණීමක් අඳුර තහවුරු කරන ඔබතුමා කැණීම කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ මේක කැණීම කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ නේ මහත්තයෝ. මේ කැණීම් කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. මේක මැටි වටේ මේව සෝදලා ඇවිල්ලා ගොඩ වෙච්ච ඇත්තට මේ වැවක් නෙන්නේ මේක පොඩි පොකුණක් නේ. මේ මුළු භූමිය ලක්ෂ සංඛ්‍යාත අවුරුද්දකට එනවා. පොඩි එක මූණක් හොදාගෙන මොනවද කරන්නේ වතුරු බිඳක් නැහැ මේක. ඒක ලෑස්ති කරන්න තමයි මේ හදන්නේ. අපිට දවල්ලා කැවිලා බලන්න අපි මොනවද කරන්න කියලා. අපි දවල්ලා කියන්න. හරි. හැබැයි හොඳට මතේ තියාගන්න. මාධ්‍ය කියන්නේ මාධ්‍යයෙන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දෙන්න පුළුවන් ඕන බොරු. ඒවට අපි මම අපමණට එනකොත් බය නැහැ.
Tune into Primetime News at 9 tomorrow for more details of this story on Action TV. And on Newsfirst tonight, the Ministry of Finance states that the special commodity tax on imported potatoes has been increased to 40 rupees per kilogram, while the tax on big onions has been increased to 35 rupees per kilogram from the 23rd of August.
Meanwhile, ornamental horticulturists in Norelia say that their trade is under threat as a result of there being no access to good quality seeds and plants. They say that this situation has arisen owing to the lack of an appropriate procedure to obtain technical and research support.
Farmers in Norelia, whose main cultivation is vegetables, are also the country's primary ornamental horticulturists. These farmers have been blessed with an environment to advance this trade. However, these farmers note that they cannot maintain the ornamental horticulture trade based on environmental conditions alone.
The lives of ornamental horticulturalists in Norelia is not as sweet-scented or as beautiful as the flowers of Norelia. We do not get pollen that is of a good standard. Even if we get seeds, it is of low quality. We ask that an official be appointed to guide and instruct us, to tell us where we went wrong and how diseases spread.
These horticulturists note that although there is significant demand in the market for new flower varieties, they have been made to stick with their traditional plants.
There is a lack of seeds for the new flower varieties. The good seeds only go to the major companies. We could earn a good income if we had access to those seeds.
If the government can intervene to secure those seeds for us, we could have a thriving trade.
A group of Russian scientists have discovered possible evidence that life on Earth is of extraterrestrial origin. Scientists came to this conclusion following tests that were carried out on algae-like particles of meteorites that were found on the exterior of the International Space Station.
Two Russian scientists attached to the Russian side of the International Space Station found the plankton last week. Laboratory tests have revealed that the samples of plankton reveal that life on Earth pre-existed in outer space. The scientists say the samples of diatoms cannot be found on Earth and added the tests are currently ongoing in order to verify this information, adding that this is the first such instance in which diatoms were found 200 kilometers from the Earth. Professor Milton Wainwright, microbiologist at Sheffield University, said that his team were able to discover diatoms 17 kilometers from Earth on an earlier occasion. He points out that there is no possible way for these waterborne organisms to get into space from Earth. Nagar says that it is yet to ascertain the origin of these microorganisms. Scientist Lane Roche-Hield remarked that these organisms would have got stagnated when attaching a new module to the Russian side of the ISS. Possible evidence of the extraterrestrial origins of life on Earth has come to light on previous occasions too. Professor Chandra Vikramasinghe, the noted UK-based Sri Lankan astrobiologist, is among the foremost proponents of this theory. He noted that the red rains experienced in parts of Sri Lanka and diatoms found in meteorite fragments in Polonnaruwa have bolstered the evidence in favour of the extraterrestrial origins theory.
These diatoms are very similar to the diatoms that were discovered in the Sri Lankan Polonnaruwa meteorite in 2011. We've looked at this very carefully, and there's no way in which those meteorites could have been anything other than falling from the skies, and this that life originated in space. Life is still coming to our planet from space, and the whole of evolution, the whole of our ancestry essentially is driven by information that comes from space. We are in effect all aliens.
We reported findings of algae in the Polonnaruwa meteorite, that's in 2003, last year January. So there was a counter argument for that finding was that life organisms cannot exist in the outer space without oxygen, water, and under the extreme conditions. But now this week the Russian scientists in the ISS, International Space Station, found there is plankton organisms growing outside their space shuttle. It confirms what we found last year in the Polonnaruwa meteorite and in the red rain.
We do not oppose Professor Chandra Wickramasinghe's panspermia notion, but it is not wise to draw parallels between the finding of the current microorganisms with the ones found in Aralagangvilla. We have discovered from the geological point of view that this soil originated in the same place it was found. We have found out that the microorganisms originated from the soil located in the same place.
The month-long waste disposal dilemma at the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital in Galle was finally resolved today. The Mayor of Galle has made a promise in writing to dispose the waste collected at the hospital.
The premises of the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital have been unhygienic for several days owing to the collection of waste. The Galle Municipal Council had decided not to dispose waste from the hospital owing to a difference of opinion with the hospital's administration. Hospital staff refrained from normal functions, including the admitting of patients today in protest. The Mayor of Galle then arrived at the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital and intervened to resolve the matter.
The Road Development Authority built a large drain in an ad hoc fashion without informing us on the access road to the landfill. Our vehicles could not travel there. At the same time, they removed all the earth from the road that we had built. The waste began piling up because we could not take it there to dispose of it. I believe that there was some sort of force that was behind the action of building a drain across the road to the landfill. Although the problem has been resolved, the Mayor of Galle noted that the Municipal Council would not dispose clinical waste. I decided today that we would use our backhoe machines and labourers to dig a hole at a suitable location chosen by the hospital officials to dispose of the waste. But as I said before, we will only dispose of kitchen waste.
We have the machinery within the hospital to incinerate clinical waste. We are only talking about the disposal of non-clinical waste. The local government institution is vested with the total responsibility of disposing of non-clinical waste. Our request is that they carry out this task gradually.
Our reporter says that many patients who visited the hospital this morning for treatment were inconvenienced as a result of this issue. I had to remain patient for a month with this chest pain.
How are we to get medicine? I've come here with a heart condition.
They only dispense medication once a month, and that too has been taken away. I asked if I should come next Monday, but they said no.
Hospital Director Dr. Shelton Pereira noted that normalcy had been restored and that the services were functioning normally now following the Mayor's promise to dispose the waste.
The floating market in PETA, another initiative that promises novel experiences for residents of and visitors to the nation's capital, was declared open today.
The floating market was declared open today under the auspices of Minister Maithripala Sirisena. The floating market is a brainchild of the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development. Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa was among the distinguished gathering that graced the opening of the floating market complex. The complex, located on Bastion Mawatha in PETA, comprises of 92 trade stalls. Notably, several stalls have been established on boats. The floating market, which will also serve as a tourist attraction, comprises of stalls selling local produce and stalls featuring local handicrafts. Labour for this endeavour was provided by the Sri Lanka Army and the Sri Lanka Navy.
The Secretary to the Ministry of Law and Order informed court today that there is no threat to the safety of the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Upulja Surya, which would warrant assigning police officers as a security detail. The Ministry Secretary submitted a report to court today via the police.
The petition pertaining to obtaining police security for the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka was taken up today before Colombo Chief Magistrate Gihan Pilapitiya. Submitting the report of the Secretary to the Ministry of Law and Order in court today, Senior DIG Anuradha Senanayake noted that the police will continue to provide security for Upul Jayasuriya's office and residence. The Senior DIG added that if required, personal bodyguards can be obtained through a private security firm. The court gave clear instructions and I submitted a report regarding the necessary steps. Anuradha Senanayake said before court clearly that he would accept the responsibility of Upul Jayasuriya's security. For the moment, the BASL is satisfied, but since it was stated in Parliament as well as that the incident was factual, doubt regarding the Bar Association President's safety has not been completely erased from the BASL.
The Chief Magistrate of Colombo ruled today that the case pertaining to the accounts details of former Chief Justice Dr. Srirani Bandaranaike will commence hearings from the 26th of September. The ruling was given when the case was taken up for consideration today.
The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption filed this case, stating that the former Chief Justice did not disclose details of her bank records when declaring her assets. When the case was taken up before Chief Magistrate of Colombo Gihan Pilapitiya, the magistrate granted access to computer experts produced by the defence to inspect the electronic data of the private bank. Thereby, the data could be examined on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of September. The magistrate also informed both parties that the case will begin hearings on the 26th of September.
A father accused of the murder of his 1-year and 9-month-old infant daughter has been remanded until the 4th of September. The suspect was produced before the Kaluthara Additional Magistrate today.
The murder had occurred in the Magalkanda area in Beruwala last afternoon. Kaluthara Additional Magistrate Aisha Abdin ordered that the 29-year-old suspected father be referred to a psychologist for a psych evaluation and that a report be submitted to court. The case is to be taken up again on the 4th of September.
On to sports news now. Sri Lankan skipper Angela Matthews says that despite the team losing the first one-day international, the team will most likely remain unchanged for tomorrow's second ODI.
The second ODI between Sri Lanka and Pakistan was scheduled to take place at the Premadasa Stadium on the 27th of this month in Colombo, but due to the rainy weather conditions forecast in the area, the game was rescheduled to the 26th, and the venue was also changed to the Surya Weber Stadium in Hambantota.
We still haven't decided whether changes should be made to the team lineup or not, because we cannot tell for certain until tomorrow. I personally think that big changes are not necessary for the team. We cannot send anyone just cause of one game. We will be omitting people only because of the nature of the pitch.
Yunus Khan will not be included in the Pakistani team for tomorrow's game, as he has travelled back to Pakistan owing to a personal reason. Spinner side Ajmal, whose bowling technique came under suspicion, will not be included in tomorrow's team as well.
Lost these sort of senior players, especially in the last game. We were just missing Saeed Ajmal and now Yunus Khan, but at the same time I think we as professionals have to really perform well.
Imagine a biker's helmet that, in addition to providing the wearer protection, also serves as a rearview mirror, GPS and mobile phone, amongst others. Sounds a bit too sci-fi and far-fetched?
Well, inventors in the US have managed to produce just that, and with a sleek and streamlined design thrown into. We leave you tonight with some footage of this amazing gadget. I'm Stephanie Lazarus.
I'm Shane Silva. Take care and good night.
Call from Sarah. Turn left in 20 miles.